Welcome to California Edition. My name is Brad Pomerantz, and you are in for quite a treat. You know I'm an Indiana Jones wannabe. Well, Indy and his father are here today. They actually are. We have Kent Bramlett and Doug Clark. They are professors at La Sierra University in Riverside, California. And as you can see, they brought for us some artifacts that they recently uncovered at a dig in Jordan. I am completely inspired by the work that you've done, by what you have brought for us today. Throughout the program, we're going to go through these objects and talk about them. But before we talk about the specific objects you uncovered, I want to hear about the dig and how it came to be. I guess, Doug, you are the early pioneer of this dig. Why don't you tell us a bit about it?
This excavation at Tel El Ameri, Jordan,
Right.
just south of Amman, the capital of Jordan, actually began in 1984 and was the offspring of another excavation. We now call it the larger Madaba Plains Project.
Okay.
That actually began at Tal Hespan in 1968.
How did a university in Riverside, California, wind up embarking on a 3-decade project of archaeology in Amman, Jordan, or outside of Amman?
Right. There are several universities bound together in part by religious affiliations that together mounted this, and which probably is what made it possible. And La Sierra was one of those. La Sierra, since the mid-90s, since the early 90s, has been the primary sponsor of the dig we're digging.
Now, I know that throughout this process, challenges have been presented as a result of certain land ownership issues. There is private ownership in Jordan. And so how have you grappled with those challenges as you have engaged in this excavation?
Well, it's becoming increasingly difficult.
Right.
Initially, we had permission of who we thought was the landowner, but
Right.
it turns out he's one of 2 significant landowners.
Yikes.
And the other owner
Right.
is a land developer who at some point bought up property that he wanted to build houses on.
Right.
Not really aware of the significance
Right.
of the history that's in his land.
And like many large cities, Amman is expanding outward. And so even though this is outside of Amman, you've explained for me that there's a desire to develop the area. And so, Doug, what happens next? I mean, they want to develop where you're excavating.
Well, and now we have the collision of antiquities laws
Right.
with private ownership laws. And given the wider context of the Arab Spring and all that's
Right.
developed out of that, landowners, citizens are getting more attention. And so the antiquities laws are suffering a bit. The goal is to rescue, to protect, to save the cultural heritage of Jordan, at the same time to protect the landowners. And it's that conflict that is giving us some real challenges.
Now, you mentioned the Arab Spring, and when that spring dawned, there was a lot of excitement around the world, but we know the spring has turned into a dismal fall. I mean, what's happening in the Middle East today is really crushing and just
Tragic.
emotionally, it's just horrid what we're seeing. The first thing I thought when I met you is, are you safe? How's everything going in Jordan, in
Right.
Amman? You're not far from Israel, and you're not far from Lebanon, from Syria.
Right. Well, you're not the only one. Parents of students
Right.
ask that question. Students are fairly courageous, but their parents ask the safety questions. But Jordan is an island of security and safety. It's as safe in Jordan as pretty much anywhere, certainly around the
Right,
capital
right.
city. And you're right, this summer with things happening in northern Iraq and
Right.
in northern Syria and across the river in Israel, Gaza, Palestine, but we were entirely secure, no problem.
I recently was watching a network which I enjoy very much, and there was a special about an archaeological dig at Treblinka, which is it was a death camp used by the Nazis during World War II. Aside from the horrors of that incident, this British archaeologist was looking to find where the gas chambers were. Forgive the macabre description, but that's what she was doing. And she used modern technology to look through the forest because the area is now wooded. And I was just fascinated by what she was doing. And then I started to learn about you, and you're doing the same. You're using modern technology in Jordan. Kent, tell us about how technology is changing the face of excavation, of archaeology.
Yeah, everything is changing now. It's one of those, I guess, pivot points of technology application. Yeah, we're not using LiDAR, which is great for looking through forest cover.
That's
we don't
what
have that
she
many.
was using.
We did last year, though.
Oh, did you?
We did LiDAR scanning of some of the buildings we excavated. We had an octocopter, so it's an 8-bladed little helicopter drone, and we used it for a couple of different technological applications. One of it is taking still pictures over our site, our excavation field.
Which is how large, by the way?
About 25 acres.
Yeah.
That's big.
Yeah, it is
big.
pretty good size. And later, then we used a certain software that puts this together in photogrammetry, that is a 3-dimensional reconstruction of our excavation. So we can actually look through our daily excavation, work through it digitally after the fact.
And why does that help? Other than the obvious, tell us why that helps.
Well, a couple main things. I mean, first of all, archaeology undoes things. It's
We're destructive. It is a destructive science.
You can't go back and redig the same area. So this preserves it for future generations. And the other is that sometimes there are land access issues, as we just talked about.
Right.
And we don't know what the future holds for this site.
Right. I want to get a sense from you before we talk about the objects. Describe a dig. We've seen Indiana Jones, but I presume that's Hollywood. Describe a dig. Either of you give us a sense.
Oh, the basic definition we use of archaeology today has the word systematic in it.
Yes, that's
prominently located at the front of the definition.
Right.
And that's where Indiana Jones, I think, got off.
Yeah.
And so everything is systematic, and it's that ordered structure, the scientific processes, several of them, that follow protocols that bring reliable results. And so we just have to do that.
And what that means is long, laborious, energizing days. Kent, I couldn't believe the schedule when I saw it. Tell us the schedule.
Yeah, up at 4:15.
4:15.
In the morning, so that we can get out with the break of day. We have an early breakfast, and then we're out as the sun rises.
Why?
Well, it's the Middle East. It's summertime.
Right.
We have to do this during the summer for the most part because we're professors and we
and
bring
you bring students.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So we work in the morning, daylight.
But when I saw that, I thought, okay, you work in the morning and you're done by lunch. No.
Well, we have a second breakfast at 9 o'clock.
Okay.
And then we do come back for lunch about 1 o'clock.
Okay.
We have a siesta, a couple hours off in the afternoon.
2 to 4?
Yes, and then we do laboratory and camp work in the later afternoon. So I analyze the pottery, look at the pottery and determine what period we're excavating in.
And you're done at what time each day?
Well, supper's at 6, and then we
6.
might have classes for the students in the later evening.
We have lectures that run from 7 to 8, and then we have an absolute cutoff time of 9 o'clock. Has to be quiet because people need to sleep.
Of
because
course.
I will ring the bell at 4:15.
And are you sleeping on site or near site?
No, we're in a school.
Okay.
It's in a vocational college, United Nations actually, for
Okay.
Palestinians, in UNRWA.
I understand.
And we have dormitories. They're rather primitive, but in any case they are. And so we are there to about 10 minutes away. We hire buses to take us to the site. So it only takes us a few minutes to get there from our site, and then we're back. But what we have is a wonderfully quiet, protected area. We can do our work outside, our lab work. We lay the things out for Kent to study. We've got a number of different activities we do outside. We've got the rooftop. Sometimes on hot days, people sleep on the rooftop. So.
And before us is what you uncovered this summer. Is that accurate? This is all from this past summer?
This is from previous summers.
You're still uncovering.
That's correct.
But
that's correct.
no doubt this stuff really tells us a lot about the era and that period.
Right.
And I can't wait to get back, and we're going to talk about it. We're going to come right back speaking with Kent Bramlett and Doug Clark from La Sierra University, tell more about their excavations in Jordan. We'll be right back.